Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. If you're tuning in today, you are part of a very specific group of people who, really enjoy unpacking dense, highly concentrated ideas.
Absolutely. And I'm your resident expert for today. Really excited to jump into this with you.
And I'm your host, and today's mission just fits that description perfectly. We are examining this excerpt from a document called DubStep Story, Episode 4.
Right. Which was published in the year 2026.
Exactly. Published in 2026 by an entity known as 786 Musik, LLC. And the text we're looking at is essentially, it reads like a telegram.
It really does.
It's incredibly brief, just a handful of sentences, but it's just loaded with absolute devotion to this one single topic.
It's remarkably dense for how short it is.
Totally. Our focus today is exclusively on the survival, the persistence, and the architecture of a culture referred to in the text as deep dubstep.
Yes.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because looking at such a tiny fragment of text and trying to extract an entire cultural ecosystem out of it requires us to look very closely at the specific words chosen by the author.
It really does. We are looking at a document that chronicles a genre fiercely protecting a very specific moment in time. The text explicitly points to the year 2006.
2006.
Right. And since the document itself was published in 2026, we are inherently examining a 20-year gap.
2 full decades.
Exactly. This sets a very clear philosophical stage for us. We're looking at what it actually takes for an underground culture to not just exist, but to stubbornly persist over 2 decades without, bending to the gravity of time.
Right, without just fading away.
Yeah, it brings up massive questions about time, about preservation, and just the sheer human willpower required to maintain a pure artistic vision.
I want you, the listener, to just take a second and imagine holding on to a singular, pure artistic vision for 20 years.
It's almost impossible to conceptualize.
It is. Think about how difficult it is to just hold on to a favorite t-shirt from 2006 without it fraying or fading or just falling apart in the wash.
I definitely don't have any clothes left from 2006.
Right. Now imagine trying to keep an entire cultural ethos completely intact. Think about how much the world changes in 20 years.
Oh, completely.
I mean, technology shifts entirely, mainstream trends morph, the way human beings consume media radically changes. There's this constant heavy pressure to dilute anything authentic just to make it more palatable for the masses.
The pressure to conform is huge.
But this text tells us there is a pocket of culture that planted a flag in the year 2006 and just decided they were not moving.
They refused to budge.
Yeah. It requires a staggering amount of dedication to keep 2006 alive in the year 2026.
And that phrase right there, keeping 2006 alive, it implies that without active, exhausting effort, 2006 would die.
It would just become history.
Exactly. The music, the ethos, the specific sonic parameters of that year are viewed by this document as a living organism, an organism that requires round-the-clock caretakers.
Like a garden you have to constantly weed.
Yes, and the text actually names these caretakers. It lists 3 specific individuals.
Kahn and Vivek.
Kahn and Vivek.
The text positions them almost like an ancient vanguard. Like these mythical protectors.
It's very reverent.
It is. It doesn't provide us with their biographies or their backstories, and it doesn't need to. In the context of this specific document, they are simply presented as the ultimate custodians.
The guardians.
Right, to be the ones credited with keeping a 20-year-old underground sound breathing that is a massive psychological burden. You are essentially taking on the responsibility for an entire culture's survival.
What's fascinating here is the concept of the artist, not just as a creator, but as a guardian.
Oh, I like that distinction.
Because usually the expectation placed on an artist is constant reinvention. The cultural demand is always to chase the future, to adapt to whatever the current year dictates.
Right. If you sound like you did 5 years ago, critics say you're stagnating.
Exactly. But the dedication these 3 figures must possess to single-handedly be credited in a 2026 text with keeping a 2006 sound alive, it speaks to a completely different artistic philosophy.
A completely different mindset.
It is a philosophy of preservation over reinvention. It suggests they found a sonic vocabulary so profound in that specific era that moving away from it wouldn't be evolution.
It would be a betrayal.
It would be a betrayal of the form itself.
It really makes me think of preserving a historical landmark, like a 200-year-old cathedral.
Okay, yeah, let's look at that.
You don't just slap a coat of neon paint on a cathedral because neon happens to be the trending color this year, right?
Oh, you definitely don't.
You painstakingly source the exact type of stone that was originally used to fix any cracks. You preserve the foundation because the inherent value is in the original architecture itself.
That's a great way to look at it.
Or it's like keeping an ancient language spoken. If the mainstream music world is constantly inventing new slang and moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour, Mala, Kahn, and Vivek are insisting on speaking this incredibly complex, older dialect.
Refusing to let it become a dead language.
Exactly.
The language analogy works really well up to a point, but a cathedral is static. Music is an active, communicative form. If you preserve a language from 2006, you don't just write it down in a book. You have to continuously convince a room full of people to keep speaking it with you.
Oh, wow.
You have to make that dialect relevant in a room in 2026. By guarding the 2006 vocabulary, they are guarding the original message of deep dubstep.
And the text gives us a very clear, massive clue as to what that message actually entails. It pivots to this very specific phrase.
It does.
It suddenly drops this striking phrase, complete with an exclamation point in the source material. The phrase is system music.
System music.
2 words, but they carry a massive amount of weight. The author doesn't use the term electronic music or dance music or anything generic. They explicitly chose the words system music.
And that exclamation point denotes passion. But in this context, I'd argue it also denotes physical volume.
Volume, yeah.
When we break down the implications of the term system music, it fundamentally shifts how we view the survival of this genre.
How so?
Well, system music implies an experience that inherently requires a massive physical sound system to be understood. It explicitly tells us that this isn't music designed to be casually consumed.
Right. You can't just play it through tiny wireless earbuds while you're waiting for the bus and claim you understand the culture.
You absolutely cannot.
You can't just play it on a laptop speaker in your kitchen while doing dishes.
It ceases to be the same art form when it is stripped of its physical machinery. It is a tactile experience of deep frequencies.
Tactile. You actually have to feel it.
Yes. The word system itself implies interconnected parts working together to move air. Amplifiers, thick cables, massive speaker cones. The music relies on the physics of a large-scale sound system to translate its meaning.
To actually deliver the message.
You have to physically occupy the same space as the sound waves.
Yeah.
You have to feel the bass altering the air pressure in the room.
It's a full-body experience, and that connects perfectly to the word deep in deep dubstep.
Physical depth.
Right. We aren't just talking about deep as in emotionally introspective, though that might be part of it. We are talking about deep as in frequency.
The extreme low end.
The extreme low end of the human hearing spectrum.
Yeah.
It's the physical depth of the sound literally vibrating the water inside your body.
Yeah.
The fact that this 2026 text isolates system music as the defining characteristic of this culture's survival tells us exactly why it has endured.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, system music perfectly aligns with the concept of deep dubstep, surviving against the natural entropy of time.
It's the anchor.
It persists precisely because it offers immersive physical experience that cannot be digitized away.
That is such a crucial point.
Consider the landscape of 2026. Everything is increasingly virtual, compressed, and ephemeral. A genre that absolutely demands your physical presence in a room with a massive vibrating sound system becomes incredibly valuable.
Because it anchors people to the tangible world. You have to actually show up. The music demands a physical pilgrimage. You have to leave your house, log off your screens, and go to the system.
And that requirement of physical presence acts as a natural filter.
A filter.
Yeah, it filters out passive consumers who are just looking for a quick, superficial trend to scroll past on a screen.
Right, the tourists.
It requires effort.
Yeah.
And that shared effort builds a fiercely loyal, committed community. The physical demands of system music create a perimeter around the culture.
But you can't just mandate that people show up to these massive sound systems. Passion and a heavy bass line aren't enough to sustain a movement for 20 years all on their own.
No, they aren't.
You need infrastructure. You need something to tell people where to go, to organize the physical releases, and to protect the artists from exploitation.
You need the scaffolding.
You need scaffolding.
Yeah.
And the source text actually provides the blueprints for that architecture. It moves from the abstract experience of the sound to the tangible reality of how it is distributed.
It does. The document explicitly names the architecture of this underground scene. It introduces two specific entities.
Deep Medi and Chestplate.
Deep Medi and Chestplate. They're identified clearly as labels.
And when we usually talk about record labels, the mind immediately goes to corporate conglomerates, right?
Right. Massive machines churning out disposable pop hits.
Highly focused on quarterly profits, streaming metrics, virality. But in the context of this highly concentrated document about preserving 2006, Deep Medi and Chestplate are serving a completely different function.
They function as critical infrastructure. For an underground depth to successfully persist, it requires an organized foundation.
You can't just run on vibes for 2 decades.
Exactly. Passion alone does not manufacture physical records. Passion alone does not secure international distribution for 20 years.
No.
Deep Medi and Chestplate are presented here as the architectural pillars. They are the structural mechanisms that allow the custodians Mala, Kahn, and Vivek to actually execute their work.
To do the guarding. Looking at the names themselves is incredibly revealing, even if you don't know any outside history. Just look at the words Deep Medi.
It directly echoes the deep in deep dubstep.
Right. It implies something meditative, foundational, and grounded.
And the other one, Chestplate.
Chestplate. That is a brilliantly evocative name for a label dealing in this specific type of art.
A chestplate is a piece of armor.
Armor.
It covers the vital organs. It implies a defensive posture, a readiness for battle. You wear a chestplate when you are protecting something essential from hostile outside forces.
And physically, your chest is exactly where you feel those heavy, low-end bass frequencies from a massive sound system.
Absolutely.
The bass literally rattles your ribcage. It hits your chest plate.
That's a perfect connection.
The labels' names entirely reflect both the physical reality of the sound and the philosophical weight of the culture they are protecting. They are the fortresses holding the line.
A label, in this underground context, acts as a quality control filter. It is a communal flag to rally around.
Without the structural support of Deep Medi and Chestplate, the music of 2006 might just be abstract ideas floating in the ether.
Slowly dissipating over time.
Exactly. These labels ground the movement in reality. The terminology used across this entire document is deeply cohesive.
Very deliberate.
Deep system, chestplate, underground. Every single word evokes weight, structure, dense foundations, and a stubborn resistance to being easily moved.
It's all incredibly heavy language.
I really want you, the listener, to pause and think about the foundational structures in your own life.
That's a great exercise.
Whether it's in your industry, your personal hobbies, or your local community, what are the institutions or the structural pillars that protect the core values of what you care about from being compromised?
Because it happens so easily.
It is remarkably easy for things to get watered down over time as they seek wider appeal. It takes a literal chestplate to shield the core from the noise of the outside world. True cultural endurance doesn't just happen by accident.
It is engineered. It is engineered through sheer willpower. The labels provide the physical and financial shelter where the 2006 ethos can safely weather 20 years of shifting musical climates.
They provide the roof.
And this organizational resilience leads directly to the culmination of the source text.
It does. The document closes with this incredibly triumphant final statement. Underground depth persists.
Another exclamation point there.
The author uses another exclamation point, ensuring the reader feels the absolute victory in that sentence. Underground depth persists. So what does this all mean?
It is an unequivocal statement of defiance.
Defiance.
To say something persists implies that it has faced severe resistance. You do not persist in a vacuum, you simply exist in a vacuum.
Wow, right.
Persistence requires friction. The friction in this scenario is the relentless passage of time between 2006 and 2026.
2 decades of friction.
And the natural entropy that usually dissolves underground movements into either mainstream parodies of themselves or just complete obscurity.
It's the contrast between the waves on the surface of the ocean and the deep currents miles below.
That's a powerful image.
The surface is chaotic, the weather changes every day, the wind blows in different directions, and the waves crash and disappear.
The surface is obsessed with the new.
Exactly. But the deep currents, they move with massive, silent power, and they do not alter their course based on a storm happening at the surface.
They are completely unaffected by the surface trends.
The underground depth is heavy, enduring, and rooted. This text is a celebration of that deep current.
The effort required to remain both underground and deep for 20 years is immense. It requires constantly rejecting opportunities.
Say no.
It means saying no to commercialization, no to watering down the strict requirements of system music, and no to abandoning the foundational parameters of 2006 just to gain a larger audience.
Just get more clicks.
The phrase underground depth persists is a declaration of victory over the disposable nature of modern consumer culture.
It really is.
It proves that if the foundation is strong enough and the guardians are dedicated enough, a pure artistic vision can survive the grinding gears of time.
Imagine the mindset of the audience reading this text in 2026. They are looking back at a 20-year legacy, celebrating the sheer stubbornness of their own culture. They're celebrating the fact that they did not compromise.
I want to pose a question directly to you, the audience listening right now. What stands out to you when you think about something persisting purely in the underground for 2 decades?
It's a huge question to grapple with.
When you strip away mainstream validation, massive financial windfalls, and broad cultural recognition, what is the core fuel that keeps a fire burning in a dark room for 20 years?
Is it the loyalty of the community?
Or the isolation itself?
Or just the uncompromising purity of the art? Examining what drives that kind of persistence is a really profound exercise when we look at our own passions.
It forces you to examine what you actually value enough to protect for thousands of days against the grain of popular culture.
Pulling all these threads together, we have unpacked a massive amount of philosophy from a document that takes less than 30 seconds to read.
It's incredible how much is packed into those few sentences.
To summarize the core nuggets of knowledge we've extracted today, according to this 2026 document, the pure foundational 2006 sound of deep dubstep has fiercely survived.
It hasn't just lingered by accident.
Right. It has been actively protected by the unwavering guardianship of artists like Mala, Kahn, and Vivek.
We also discovered that the survival of this culture is inextricably tied to its physical nature.
System music.
It is defined as system music, a full-body, tactile experience that demands physical presence and actively resists shallow digital consumption.
And finally, we saw that this underground depth relies on critical architectural support. Labels like Deep Medi and Chestplate act as the structural armor and the foundation, allowing this 2006 ethos to stubbornly and triumphantly persist into the future.
It is a complete masterclass in cultural endurance and defiance.
We've seen how a few carefully chosen words can map out an entire strategy for artistic survival. But as we look at this incredible feat of preservation, I want to hand it over to you for one final thought for our listener to mull over.
We've spent a lot of time analyzing the dedication to the year 2006.
Yeah.
If the relentless goal of these artists and labels is to perfectly and definitively keep 2006 alive, at what point does perfectly preserving the past become an act of defiance against the future?
Oh, man.
Or, if we look at it from another angle entirely, is this pure, unwavering, 20-year dedication to that specific underground depth actually a completely new, evolving art form all on its own? Is the act of persistence itself the true masterpiece?
Is the persistence itself the masterpiece? That completely reframes how we think about preservation versus creation.
It really blurs the line.
That brings us to the end of today's deep dive. Thank you for joining us on this custom-tailored journey. We took a tiny fragment of text and found an entire universe of meaning, resistance, and architecture inside it.
It was a pleasure unpacking it.
Remember, no matter what you are studying or reading out there in the world, there is always a deeper layer waiting to be uncovered if you just look closely at the words. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep looking for that underground depth in whatever you do. Until next time.